Okay guys, welcome back to the second half of our resource packet. In this one, we're just going to be talking about the virtual museums and the virtual tours that we found.
Once again, bear with us. We made this on iMovie, which means we made the screencast at a different time than we actually recorded the audio.
So just open up our EdTech binder that you guys saw in the first half of our screencast.
And hopefully you've gotten a chance to look at by now.
So just quick to show you our guest book before we start. When you guys are done looking at it, if you guys could fill it out.
That'd be great. It's just an example of how you can use Google Docs and still edit them, but we'd also love to hear what you think about our stuff through this Google Doc we have on our binder.
Okay, so next tab we're going to go to is our virtual museums tab.
And we're going to show you a straight-up example of why we chose virtual museums, and we'll talk about it a little bit after. But first, we're going to go to the one that I chose. So out of here, these are a bunch that we found that we absolutely love. And so we put them on there because we thought they were super cool. But the ones that are highlighted in actual colors are the ones that we chose to actually write about with our curriculums. So for me, I use the Google Cultural Institute, specifically the art project version of it, since I am an art major. So the cool thing about our project is it's got tons of different galleries and collections, but you can also do museum view on lots of the collections themselves. So here you can see that there's all the pictures are separate and you can zoom in and look at them better, but there's also museum view. So we're gonna just go in here, and here, just like on Google Street View, if you're trying to figure out the address of someone's house, you can look around and move by clicking and dragging. And I absolutely love this. I think it's so cool, but I kind of accidentally left the museum here, so I'm going to turn back around.
Gift shop tour.
Yeah, this is not what we want. So I'm going to go back. A cool thing about this is there's also museums. There's also a place called World Wonders, so you can look at different historical sites. And my favorite one that I looked at was Pompeii. It's cool because I've actually been to Pompeii, and on the World Wonders one, you can go in restricted areas. So they actually have where you can walk through areas that aren't actually open to you if you went there in person. So just like on Google Street View, you navigate by the squares, mean you're zooming into a wall or a surface to look at things up close. Here, you can't really read the writing because it's all in Japanese, so there's kind of no point there. But and when you use the circles, that means you're just moving around your person. So if you see something in there that you really like, you can zoom out here, come back out of the street view, and you can look for it in the collection here. So it's got all the pieces that you can see, you'll be able to find here. So say I really like the wedding dress and I found it. So you can go here, you can see the actual artist, the name of the piece, the year it was made, anything like that. So you can actually research it further on, any search engine, or you can go here, details. There's not many details though, because this is a Japanese museum and we are not Japanese speakers, so I can't really look too far into it. But that was my virtual museum that I chose because I found it really, really cool.
Okay, so I guess for mine now, the one I did, it relates to the Social 9 curriculum. If you guys not familiar with the Social 9 curriculum, it is the Roots of Society. So basically what the curriculum wants you to do is look at a bunch of different ancient societies, such as ancient Greece, ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, and you look at their trade, their culture, their worldview, and how all these things developed and how we can compare and contrast them. So I found this one just Googling. I Googled virtual ancient field trips. As you can see, you get to go through a bunch of different ones and it will say, go next, visit here. So I'm going to go back to ancient Egypt because that's the one I like the most. And I'm just going to quickly click through them. It's a little small, so you can't read any of the text. But I think this would be a great resource. In order to start talking about the culture, you need to have some basic background information and knowledge. And this is something I could assign my students just to go through, read, and come up with questions. It's, a alternative to just giving them a textbook reading. So as opposed to the art museum that you had just saw previously, this really isn't a museum walkthrough. It's more of an interactive website. Which is, another different type of virtual field trip. It's one I like a bit better because I can navigate them easier and they tend to load a bit faster.
They also are cool if you wanted to send your students on a scavenger hunt. Like here's another example is the British Museum. So then they can look under the categories here and then they can go more in depth into the actual articles. And here we've actually left LiveBinder now to look at the stories, the explore, the artifacts, stuff like that. And then you can send them on an assignment just by following along with the interactive museums.
The British Museum has a bunch of cool ones. Their site, to me, I found it was a little hard to navigate, so I just pulled out the two that I would use, the Ancient Egypt and Ancient Greece, but they're really cool if you get a chance to check them out.
So the reason we chose virtual museums, our pros, I guess, would be that they're easy to control. It also depends, though, on your age group. Like this one here, this is a chicken farm, or it's just Canadian farms.
Yeah.
So here's a chicken farm. This one is easier for younger kids because it's got that street view quality to it, but it's not too complicated. But then it's also interactive, so that if they click on a magnifying glass, it'll tell them more about what they're actually looking at. And we thought that was kind of cool because it combines the two together, and it's not overly difficult to operate. Another thing is that you can do this as a personal project on your own computers if you have a classroom laptop set or a tablet set, but you can also put it on a projector and be the tour guide yourself and walk through it, or even start them off on the projector and send them off on their own.
It's really nice, but at the same time, there's a couple virtual museums that I found that they say you can only use this if you're just showing it to your entire class. If you want to use on individual laptops, you need to buy a special license. I don't understand that personally because I don't know how they could tell that you're using it on all these different laptops, but just make sure you check with your copyright things. It's like, I guess one of the biggest perks about virtual field trips is you can take your students anywhere you can find a virtual field trip. I mean, like, going to see the Parthenon in real life, for a lot of students probably will never happen, just it costs way too much, but using something like this, you can show your entire class something, a piece of history.
There's some cons to it is that, it's the internet. So any assignment that you have on the internet, you have to be prepared to be able to use classroom management and find your way around and make sure that everyone is staying on task. I think that this project would go awesome with the land school idea that was posted to Google Plus earlier this week. Just because then you can watch everyone and see where they are in their respective museums and what they're looking at. I thought that this one is kind of cool because here, this is the Acropolis Museum, and this piece right here in front of me, I looked at in art history last week. But at the same time, you can look at these different sculptures that were made by earlier civilizations and tie it in with a social studies thing. So the virtual museum doesn't have to just be museum-related subjects that you normally think about. You can use it in a variety of different kinds of classes.
Yeah, like even for creative writing, you could show these statues to a young class and say, write me a story about what you think happened, or what do you think is the story behind these, and just get them to make guesses. So it can go really for almost any subject.
Another problem, though, is that controls might get confusing, especially on the street viewer ones, because it could be a little overwhelming when you're clicking around and you might not be able to kind of focus on what you're doing, and some people might even get motion sick a little bit because it can be a little funky. Like right here, I put it on full screen mode and it's beautiful, but at the same time, when you're clicking around. We also have a mouse right now, and on a laptop it might be difficult to do this using the touchpad as opposed to actually having a mouse to click and drag with.
Yeah.
And another thing last about, especially when I have this pulled up, is that slow internet can make this really difficult to do. And as Jocelyn mentioned earlier, interactive museums are better because they load faster and they don't require so much, but this is, it's high definition. This is something that if a school internet isn't exactly fast, per se, or so many people are on this webpage, it may be difficult to actually load to its full potential.
Yeah, and one I'm going to show you quickly at the end, the Canada Hall, they actually offer, you can look at the high def one or the the normal one, so they try to make it as accessible as possible, but sometimes it's just your internet is way too slow to deal with it.
So last but not least, we're just going to look at this Canada Hall one, which is, are we looking at it?
No, we're going to look at the Education Technology blog, that one.
All right.
It's like, if you guys want to use these in your classroom and you really don't know where to start looking, just Google virtual field trips. I mean, that's where we found most of ours. This is a website that I found. It's kind of interesting. It's got a lot of US resources, but I mean, just shows you how many you can find. One I recommend for the Canadian history teachers is this one. They've got like a whole bunch of these online exhibits. And the one I had mentioned before, Canada Hall, they let you kind of just go through a 360 view of some of their rooms, and then you can even click on the more information, and they've got the description of the exhibits you're seeing. So I mean, that's pretty cool. It's something I would give to a high school class. It would just be a bit too advanced for the younger grades.
All right, so if you have any other questions, just feel free to look around, leave it in our guest book or anything like that. Thank you for watching.
Hope you guys learned something new, and I hope you guys try out the virtual museums for yourself. And if you guys